Shalom. Alright, first off, I'd like to give an all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. This is part 6 and is a continuation of the lesson, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the rise and fall of Nebuchadnezzar. Alright, so in the last part, we went over a situation that happened, where the men of the Lord were tested, where Nebuchadnezzar tested the men of the Lord. And now, and then we read Daniel chapter 4, verses 4 through 9, where Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And in that dream, he was again distraught, and he did not know what the interpretation of the dream was, so he inquired of Daniel. So we're going to kick off right from there. All right. This is Daniel chapter 4, verse 9. I'm going to reread verse 9, and it says, "O Belshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee, tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed, saw and behold a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached into heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed from it. I saw in the vision of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, a holy one, came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said, Hew down this tree, cut off the branches, shake off his leaves, scatter his fruit, let the beast get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of the roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand of the word of the holy ones, in the intent that the living may know that the Most High, or that Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whosoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof. For as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled he. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hateth thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew, was strong, whose height reached into the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the earth, to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, saying, Hew down this tree and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beast of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, or this is the decree of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, which has come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling, Salakia, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass, Salakia, as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High, or that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee, after thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by shewing mercy to the poor, if it may be lengthening of thy tranquility. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of the 12 months he walked in the palace of Babylon, and he spake, and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom, by might of my power and honor of my majesty? Okay, so he didn't give praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Ultimately, Nebuchadnezzar was warned. He was spoken about. It was told that he was going to be this tree. All right, it was told that he was going to be a great power. All right, and he was going to be cut down. All he had to do was turn from his unrighteousness. All right, all he had to do was what? Be proud. Not be proud. Be humble and give the praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Obviously, the Lord knew he wasn't going to do this, because rulers are not prideful. They're not humble usually. All right, especially when they have the Lord's people in the captivity. So this was all in the works, man. The Lord, the Lord is the master planner. He's the master architect. All right. So verse 31, it says, while the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, thy dwelling shall be in the beasts of the field, with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass of oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. And in the end of his days, in the end of the days, I Nebuchadnezzar lifted up my eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all that the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doth according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand, or say unto him, what doest thou? At the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom my honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords saw unto me, and I was established in the kingdom. The excellent majesty was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol the honor of the King of heaven, all whose works are true, and his ways judgment, and those who walk in pride he is able to abase. All right. So there was a lot to unpack there, but basically the gist of the situation, all right, is that Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and this dream featured a tree. All right, we're gonna actually read this part of my notes, because I think this part of my notes this part of my notes is not. So essentially, there was a dream Nebuchadnezzar had about a tree, and that tree represents the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It represents his empire. It represents his rulership. And then a voice from heaven came and said, "Let's chop this tree down, all right, and bound it with iron and brass." In other words, Nebuchadnezzar was going to go through a period where he was going to be abased, all right, for his pride. And he was going to kind of, and it said to not unroot the tree, not get rid of it, because when a tree is cut down and you see the stump, you see that there was something there. There was, like, you can see that there was something great there. If the tree's very thick, you can say, wow, there was a big tree here, you know, because the stump and the roots are still there. Well, that's why. And the representation of, or the breakdown of the bands of iron and brass, well, those are tools, or those are materials that are used to put someone into captivity. All right? And how did the Lord put Nebuchadnezzar into captivity? He took away his kingdom, but he also struck him with madness until Nebuchadnezzar, he made him basically into an animal. All right? He was out there, he forgot how to talk. He was out there in the field getting wet. You know, his hair was long and he was all disheveled. His hair was long and so were his nails. All right? It said that his nails were like talons, all right, of an eagle. I believe that's what it said. Or roughly paraphrasing, you know, he had long nails. He was unkept, all right, and no one wanted to be near him. But once he humbled down and praised Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, he was brought back into his senses. But by then, you know, he was a stump already. His kingdom had been uprooted, all right? That tree had been hewed down already, all right? So son of Nebuchadnezzar, all right, son of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar takes over the fading power known as the Babylon Empire at this point, and their father forms an alliance with the Medes, all right, and the Medes had fortified an alliance with the Persians, who were slowly growing as the next superpower, because now we're transitioning into that part where the Persians become the power, all right. And it says that's one of the arms of the two silver arms. And it says Daniel becomes the king of Babylon after Belshazzar promises him the throne if he can decode a message which is written on a wall during a celebration. All right. So eventually he is killed and Daniel becomes king. And Darius, at age 62, conquers. All right. He conquers Babylon. All right. And this entire ordeal is spoken of in Daniel chapter 5, which we're going to hit in part 7 of this series, which is going to actually conclude and wrap up the Babylonian Empire. And then we're just going to, through the Spirit, get right into, all right, the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. So with that, hope this lesson was edifying, and until next time.